Hello, and welcome to the Crystal Ball Hour with me, Elisa, here on KUHS Denver, the stream, my favorite radio station. Welcome to the show, wherever you are. If you're new, welcome even more. This is a show that is about astrology and spirituality and psychic senses. I adore doing this show, but it only works if you let me know that you like it too. And how can you do that? You can go to Facebook and find the Dr. Elisa Show. It's actually posted under there. Or KUHS Denver on the Facebook site, or Henry Archuleta, and post in there. You'll see the show starting to run live, and you can post questions there. So, before I get really started and introduce myself, and yes, I do have my crystal balls with me, let me do a shout out, a couple. I have an amazing sponsor, veteranspride.org. This is a very small nonprofit that runs on a shoestring, and they take veterans awards and medals and memories and put them in shadow boxes so the veteran has some way of sharing their experience and feeling honored. They're a little bit expensive and they could use a few donations. So if you are willing to donate something at this end of the year time, go to veteranspride.org, and whatever you have, be a philanthropist. Donate 5 or 10. It will help. And also a shout out to an organization that I love supporting, the MS Society, and I'm involved with the Colorado-Wyoming chapter. And if you have MS, have a family member who has MS, has a friend who has MS, this society is absolutely amazing. And it's one of the ones close to my heart because of the MS issues in my family. So those are my shout outs. What about me? If you're new to this, yes, this is Dr. Elisa from the Dr. Elisa Show. And you know that I came out as a psychic and a channeler and a reader on this station and on this show almost a year ago. I do believe I started in April of 2019. And it has been absolutely fantastic to be able to share that part of me. Part of the show then is to help you sink deep into yourself and find that energy within you, to trust your inner wisdom, to trust your sort of spidey senses, your psychic senses. And sometimes knowing that somebody else is doing that helps. I've also, you can find me at elisarobin.com. Robin is spelled with a Y. I am an astrologer. I do private sessions. I have packages. You can find me there. And if you go to that site, you'll notice that I've been published and cited in many online articles about astrology, spirituality, personal growth, personal development, and even things like tarot cards. So lots of ways to find me. Follow me on the Dr. Elisa Show and on elisarobin.com. I'm also an author, and you can get my blog probably every other week. So if you sign up for my website, you won't get overwhelmed. And my new book, Dark Fire, should be out in January. My old book, which is, they connect at the very end. The two books actually weave together and will weave together in a third book. This is called The Way of the Well. It is a spiritual, adventurous romance, heavy on the romance, but absolutely also heavy on the spiritual journey. And I'm getting great reviews about it, and if you still need a present for someone, you can find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of those other places online that you buy books. So enough about me. I've had people ask me, how is it I learned to read a crystal ball? And I have told that story. The short version is, there's an old Kabbalistic tradition that I learned at my great aunt's table. She was probably a great cousin as opposed to a great aunt, but I'm not extra sure. And the women of Shabbat would fill a crystal glass with red wine and hold it up so they could see the candlelight through the wine and talk about the future. And that is actually often how I read, with a big round wine glass with some red wine in it and candles. Not something I wanted to bring into the studio, and it has to be kind of dark for that to work. So I bring in the 4 crystal balls I have. If you've seen the show before, you know I have this amazing complete black one that is leaded crystal, a clear one that's leaded crystal, a amethyst one, and a blue agate one, different sizes. So how does this work? First, it works by me updating my page so I can see if anybody is posting anything. If you're interested in a reading today, what you do is you post questions in the site. I'm going to be talking a lot about astrology today, and so if you're not interested in posting, just be prepared to think about your chart, because we are talking about the amazing stuff going on today. But I'm going to intermix that with readings if you ask questions. Now let me just tell you, if you ask me, I don't do the stock market, and if you ask me a question about your health, I'm going to tell you to talk to your healthcare practitioner, whoever that might be, in whatever way they practice, and then I'll answer whatever I can. So there are some things I don't answer, and make sure you're okay with me saying your first name and reading your question online, because lots of people are listening. Okay, what's today's topic? Today's topic is this amazing astrological day we're in, and it's this incredible day, and you've probably heard about it. You know that we're in the winter solstice. I think it was like super early in the morning was the exact time. And if you're paying attention at all, and if you look in the sky at all, you've noticed that the planet Saturn and the planet Jupiter are getting closer and closer and closer. And tonight, they are so close. They will look like they're on top of each other, like there's a hair's breadth in between them. It's called a conjunction. It's being called the grand conjunction. Some people are calling it the Christmas star. So let me just explain that one for a minute. We don't actually know exactly what was going on astrologically, what that star of Bethlehem was. We don't really know. But it could have been a grand conjunction. Perhaps not Saturn and Jupiter, perhaps Jupiter and Venus. And it could have been that happening at the same time that we had winter solstice, or a full moon, or a dark of the moon, rather, excuse me, or a comet. There's many things that could have been happening at the same time, but when you're trying to get the exactly right date, it's a little difficult. So was it this conjunction? Probably not. Though this conjunction, I think, did happen in 7 BCE. But it was something like this, and probably much brighter, because the world was darker. There weren't any electric lights. So something like this. It's an auspicious type of light. It fills the sky, and don't we need that at the end of 2020? So not only is it the solstice, and not only do we have a conjunction, but those 2 planets, and we're going to talk about this in detail here, are moving from Capricorn to Aquarius. And for all you Capricorns out there, we love you. We love, and let me say this, every sign has a dark side and a bright side. And we've been seeing the dark side of Capricorn for 2020, all of 2020. And what we're now going to leave behind is the dark side of Capricorn and experience, hopefully, the bright side of Aquarius, which I just have to say is my favorite sign, closely followed by Scorpio. If you've been listening and you're an astrologer, you have probably figured out most of my chart by now. Okay, why the dark side? So what's been going on? In all of 2020, 3 planets were conjunct, and I've talked about this. Pluto, which is the planet of great shamanic transformation, creative destruction. Pluto always wins in any battle, just so you know. It has been conjunct Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn. Pluto shows us the dark side of whatever it's in, and it's been in Capricorn. What's the amazing things about Capricorns, because we love you? They can build things. They understand a beautiful form of ambition. That's the light side of Capricorn, a beautiful form of ambition, a form of commitment, the understanding that there are things worth conserving in the world, conservation, being aware of the next 7 generations. There are commitments we make that are worth keeping. If you have children, raise them well. That's a commitment worth keeping. There are old values that we should hang on to. Don't lie. Be a good friend. If you're going to be in a leadership situation, be good at it. Be honest. Be a model. Those are the bright sides of Capricorn. What's been happening, of course, is with Pluto and Capricorn, we've been experiencing as a planet the dark side. To add to that, Saturn has been in Capricorn, and we have been finding that we've been building structures and desperately and fearfully holding on to the past. Remember, to conserve things can also mean to hold on to things that perhaps we've outgrown. Think of all the isms that we really should have outgrown by now, right? Racism and sexism and xenophobia and blah, 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 blah. This is not a political lecture. This is a note that sometimes we hang on to things because we're afraid, and that's the dark side of Capricorn. That if we can keep our structures in place, we won't be afraid. I can give you a great example. New Orleans, for those of you who know anything about Louisiana and know New Orleans well, if you've been there, you've noticed that when you look at the river and the Mississippi and you look at the land is below sea level. And it is due to the Army Corps of Engineers that Louisiana is still there, that New Orleans is still there. There's a big geologic explanation for it that I'm not going to go into. But as long as the levees hold, New Orleans is okay. Now, isn't that an interesting place to be? And I'm not in any way suggesting we don't protect the levees. I'm saying that that is a way of holding on to something because we're so afraid of what could happen. And in that case, we know what could happen if the levees break. In our lives, we do that a lot. And this year we've done it. And then we throw Jupiter into the mix. And Jupiter is the planet that expands anything it touches. Anything. So what has it been expanding? Fear. Hang on to the old. Hang on tightly to the old. Jupiter's also been expanding that fear internationally, right? We know global. And that Pluto-Saturn conjunction, along with a couple other planets that have been doing other things, talk about actually plagues. And so somebody just asked me before I came online if astrologers saw the pandemic. The answer is I didn't, right? But many astrologers predicted something global that stopped the world. It could have been a virus hack, a computer hack. And in fact, those are happening. Those 3 planets have been together all year. Welcome to 2020. And it's been exhausting. And now, 2 of those planets, Saturn and Jupiter, have moved into Aquarius, and today they are conjunct. Conjunct means they are both at 0 degrees Aquarius. They're right next to each other astrologically, and they're right next to each other in the sky. And you can see it. If you're in my part of the world, in the U.S., you go outside, you look towards the southwest about an hour right after sundown to 2 hours after sundown, and you should be able to see them together. And with binoculars, you should be able to see the moons of Jupiter. With a telescope, you'll be able to see the rings of Saturn. These are huge planets, and they will look like one big planet in the sky, one big star. And they act in our lives like one big planet, like one powerful planet that has effect on us. So that globally, what does that do? It makes us, so Aquarius, on the light side of Aquarius, is the forward thinking, the scientist, also the astrologer, but the out-of-the-box thinker, the let's move into the future. Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian. That's the light side. The dark side is the humanitarian who doesn't like people, but still the humanitarian. It is the rebel of the universe. It is the freedom-oriented sign of the zodiac. Aquarius asks us, who would you be if you hadn't been socially programmed? We can't help it. We just don't follow rules. And it's not that we break them, we just don't notice there were rules. So we look at, and it's the sign of science. What did we see? When was that first vaccine? I'll give you one guess: when Saturn moved into Aquarius, right? Boom, the first vaccine. That's why so many astrologers have been predicting the vaccine would show up in December, because these two planets. So just let that percolate in your mind. I'm checking into the Facebook site to see if anyone is chatting with me. And you do get to disagree. I'm hoping the volume is high enough. I have a note. It looks like it is. Hopefully the volume's high enough. That's the only note I have so far, is make sure that the volume's high enough. Okay. So that's global. This is a global event where we move away from that need to hang on fearfully, because we can look into the future and say it's worth taking a step forward, maybe in a different way. Now, that's the positive side of Aquarius. What's the negative side of Aquarius? We get a little arrogant. We do get a little stubborn, and actually a lot stubborn. Can I just say that? The last time they were in Aquarius was 800 years ago, I think. Aquarius, these two planets have been in Earth signs for quite a while, and we've been governed by that energy of Earth, which is lovely and solid and comforting. And yet, it also, in its dark side, can trap us, like being trapped in the mud, being trapped in a sand dune. It can be fun for a while, and then it gets exhausting. So we're starting by moving into this air sign, which is mental and forward thinking and open to new ideas and new possibilities. That's where we're going as of today. As of today, that's the energy shifting. And just watch the world around you and pay attention to yourself, because it is shifting. So what this sets up, basically, is an energetic pattern, energy, a point of view for the next 20 years, let's say, that is focused more on social good and humanitarianism and taking care of people and looking at new ways of solving problems. That's what it does for everybody. It also is about healing and renewal, not because Aquarius is necessarily about that, but because Capricorn can be about depression. And doesn't that make sense for 2020? It can be about patience that feels like a heavy load, like you're carrying a heavy load. And doesn't that sound like 2020? The air sign is just uplifting. Aquarians are trailblazers. And so this is a call to awaken. Awaken to whatever kind of enlightenment works for you. Okay, so what I want to do is go through what it means for each of us individually and say that whatever you believe in, goal setting, magic, setting intentions, blessings, prayers, it doesn't matter. Whatever you believe in, today is a day to do that. To have a solstice ritual, to do extra prayers, to do extra blessings, to set your intentions for 2021, because today is basically the start of 2021. We're moving forward. Pluto's going to hang out in Capricorn for a while longer. And I'm not saying that we're in the age of Aquarius that we used to dream about in the 60s, where everybody's lovely and peace reigns everywhere. But we're changing. We're embracing something new. So let's talk about what it means for each of you. Now I'm just going to check into this Facebook site and see if any of you have particular questions. Let me tell you that if you want to know about what 2021 is for you specifically, this is a great time to have an astrological reading. To have somebody pull your chart and to look at that chart and say, here is what this year means for you. And I'm going to give you a taste of that. Now, how do you work with this? If you know you're an Aquarius sun or Aquarius moon or Aquarius rising, this might make sense for you, a lot of it. But what I'm really going to talk about, and remember, astrology is more than just your sun sign. We've had this conversation, right? There are 10 planets and 12 houses, and you have each of those planets and some of those houses in a different sign. So when an astrologer works with you, it would be, just using your sun sign would be like a psychological evaluation that just used your first name. It's just a very, very tip of everything else. Astrology is much richer. Or if you do Myers-Briggs, for example, imagine if the only thing you knew about Myers-Briggs were you an introvert, are you an introvert or extrovert? And that's it. Well, that's nothing. That's not how the Myers-Briggs works. That's not how strengths inventories works. So astrology is much deeper. So if you have your chart, this is a great time to grab it. If you don't, go online, Google run a free astrological chart, put in your information, and pull a chart. You absolutely need your time of birth for this to work. But what you'll see is how there's Aquarius in one of those houses. Remember, the houses are those pie-shaped things that go around the chart. And we count them, 1 on the far left, below the horizon, and then counterclockwise all around to 12. That's how this stuff works. And I am going to talk about Jupiter and Saturn by house. What does it mean by house? What is going to be, where is this going to play out in your life this year? You with me? I'm checking online. See if you're with me. Now, I know there's astrologers out there, and it would also be fun if you disagreed with me to put something in there also. That would also be fun, just because. Okay, I am going to assume that I have hypnotic powers and that you are listening to the sound of my voice and breathlessly waiting to hear what is happening for you astrologically this year. Okay, the key words for this moment is that are scrutinize, to scrutinize with suspicion. Okay, now I got this from one of my very favorite astrologers, Stephen Forrest. You can find him online. He's brilliant, and I read his books and I've read his stuff and taken his workshops, and these words come from him, just so you know. Scrutinize with suspicion. Why? Because we've all pulled in 2020. We've all hung on tightly. And now it's like there's an opening door, and now we have a chance to re-examine. What are we re-examining? It depends where Aquarius is in your chart. So if you have your chart, look at it. Look at those 2 squiggly lines. They look like water. They're not. They're electricity. Or maybe they're microwaves, or maybe they're Wi-Fi waves, right? Internet waves. There's no telling with Aquarius. And let's go through the chart. So, if Aquarius is in your first house, scrutinize with suspicion your ego, how you've learned to present yourself, perhaps what you wear, who you think you have to be in the world. Because last year, you were stuck in that. Or maybe last year, you realized that no longer worked for you. You don't want to commute in rush hour traffic anymore and wear a suit. Why do that? You worked great at home. Scrutinize with suspicion what persona you have taken on, and do you want to keep it? And I'm going to go through these kind of quick, so feel free to ask questions. If Aquarius is in your second house is typically money, but it's also stuff, resources. So resources can be college degrees, right? It can be talents, it can be skills, it can be artistic explorations. It can be things we own physically, but also things we own, right? I own things I've learned. That's what it is to become a master of something. You own that, you have mastery of. So again, scrutinize with suspicion. How much are you paying to earn your money? What are you emotionally paying to own your money? What are you doing? And do you care about it anymore? What do you really want to do? This year could show up for many of us almost like a midlife crisis. Imagine the people who've been in relationships that they don't want to be in, and they finally have the courage to leave because Capricorn said you stay in relationships, and Aquarius says you find your freedom. Think about jobs. You make a lot of money, you should stay. I hate it, I should leave, right? That's Aquarius. Or I'm done. I did that, been there, done that. Moving on. That's Aquarius. If you have it in the third house, which happens to be where I have it, just in case you were wondering, all you astrologers out there, scrutinize with suspicion what you've learned to say to others. What comes out of your mouth? What do you write? How do you communicate? Look at it, because this is a new day. It's a new dawning. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It means you have the opportunity to have voice and to express yourself in amazing ways. To take that shift, to have the courage to move from being trapped, from conserving the dark side of Capricorn into the bright side of Aquarius. And yes, I'm biased. Let's just say that. I love the bright side of Aquarius. And I love a little bit of the dark side too, just so you know. Fourth house. What were you taught in family? Now, family doesn't have to be family of origin. It can be family you've built around you, the people you feel are your family. Who do you have to be to hold that? And what does home mean to you? And what has that looked like through 2020? And what have you suddenly realized you have grown accustomed to and defended that maybe isn't you? Maybe the world you've created around you matched the family you wanted to stay connected to, but it was never you. So many of us go through that. It doesn't mean throw it away. That's not what Aquarius says. It says examine it, look at it, make choices. If you grew up in California and always wanted to live in Santa Fe, maybe 2021 will be the year you want to go. Maybe home means something different to you than it did when you were growing up. Fifth house. So we're going around the bottom of that circle. Fifth house is fun, pleasure. You might want to examine what you've considered fun. Imagine that you've been going out with the same friends, and you love these friends, for 10 years. And every year there's a wild beach party. And you go. And you look at the pictures and it looks like you're having fun, but honestly, you'd rather do something else. You don't have to lose the friends, but you do have to acknowledge who you are, what you want to do. What is life about for you now? What do you want to choose? 2021 is about choice. like I said, Aquarians choose. We choose to not follow the rules. Maybe some of my colleagues might say I chose to not acknowledge there were rules. It's quite possible. I won't argue with them. And I am just in here checking Facebook to see if you're chatting with me. You know, the show actually only works if you chat with me. And if you let me know you like it. So any kind of posting there would be good. Or direct message. If you're a buddy of mine, direct message me. Sixth house is called the house of service. It's also the house of health often. But it's where we feel like we need to do certain things. Maybe we owe people. Maybe we have karmic debt. But it's a life where we learn to do for others, which is a lovely thing, right? Except when it costs us ourselves. And maybe we don't owe those debts anymore. And maybe simply showing up as who we truly are is enough. Giving away everything in our life, giving away our energy or our heart or our beliefs or our souls, maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe this is the year for you to examine those belief systems, those values and morals and ethics that you inherited, but really aren't you. And if you don't know your chart, one of these or two of these are going to resonate with you. And you're going to realize, oh my gosh, this is what's up for me this year. Seventh house, relationships, partnerships, any kind of relationship, any. Partnerships at work, colleagues. Yes, it can be friends and it can be spouses of various whatever. It doesn't have to be a marriage, right? It can be a committed relationship of whatever kind. Are you yourself when you're with people? Examine, scrutinize with suspicion who you feel you have to be for relationships to work. Now again, we all have friends who we choose to be with even though we know they're a friend for a certain thing. I had a very dear friend for a while who has moved out of state, but this friend was really good for street fairs and for fun adventures. Not great for confiding in, not great for when I was down, but wild fun for certain types of adventures. Okay, I could make a choice as long as I didn't have to change who I was for the friendship to work. So look at that, because this is a year, Aquarius is about being true to yourself. That's the rebellious piece of it. Who would you be if you hadn't had to survive by adapting to the social programming around you? Eighth house, relationships, but at a different level. Eighth house is ruled by Scorpio, my other favorite sign. And yes, Scorpios are about sex, but they're about deep inner expressions of love. Honestly, count yourself lucky if a Scorpio loves you. And this house is also about relationships with money, relationships with inheritance, things to do with intimate, deep interactions. Scrutinize with suspicion. Examine curiously. Who are you in those relationships? What do those things actually mean to you? Perhaps something different than you were taught they were supposed to be? Is this a year where you've had a deep knowing about something and this is the year you let it out? Again, Aquarius is not about running over other people, though I'm sure we have done that on occasion. But it is about acknowledging that the what I was taught may not be exactly who I am. And sometimes, yeah, I have to balance those things, but sometimes it might be more important to be who I am. Come on, chat with me. At least post in there that you love my voice. This is that one show where I get to hang out in sort of my spiritual mystic self. And it'd be lovely to know you enjoy it. What's the ninth house? Now we're coming up towards the top of the chart. Ninth house is religion, philosophy. It can be travel, which for many people, if you've got Aquarius in your ninth house, as soon as you feel safe, and maybe you've already done it, you're going to be on an airplane. You are going to be traveling, maybe moving, because you've been restricted enough. But for other people, this might be examining, right? Curiously examining, scrutinizing, suspiciously looking at. Do you believe in what you believe? So many of us have religious beliefs based on what we taught. Our parents were X, so we're X. Our parents, our family, our community believes Y, so we believe Y. We listen to news channel A and we believe A. It's what surrounds us. Is that who you are? What if you dipped your toe outside that? Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, so yes. What if you open up the world? And Jupiter makes things easy. Saturn makes things a little bit harder, but when they're together like this, it makes easy the harder activities. So climbing a mountain can be difficult, but if you know there's gold at the top, it's easier. That's Saturn and Jupiter working together. So what if this is the year where you realize that you're not exactly what you were taught, and that maybe you start going to services, or you stop going to services, or you try different services, or regardless of what people say, are they upset with you when you do one or the other? Does your community say, no, it has to be this way? What if this is the year you explore? Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius in your ninth house suggests that. Take that opportunity. 10th house, reputation, job, how you're seen in the world. You know, it's a great place to have Aquarius, because Aquarius is also the sign of new thinking, of new ideas, of being the innovator. Maybe this is the year you become an entrepreneur. Maybe this is the year you realize you've earned enough, you've got enough money set aside that you can go do what you want to do. Maybe this is the year you realize that what you've been fighting against is actually what you do want to do. Aquarius doesn't say you're going to change. It says look at the why. Look at how you're being drawn to or pulled away from. And I have to say, if you are an Aquarius, and again, now it's also by house. If you're a Sun Aquarius, your ego is going to be challenged to shift, to change. It's like having these planets in your first house. If your moon is in Aquarius, watch for those emotional changes. And I'll come back to that in a minute, because Aquarians think emotions are kind of nasty. If your rising is Aquarius, notice that you look different in that mirror and don't necessarily want to look the way you have, physically look the way you have, the way you present, because things are changing. And you won't be scared. I mean, that's the whole thing with Jupiter, right? It expands whatever it's close to. Aquarius is not afraid of change. Capricorn is. So this isn't about fear. 2020 was about fear, not 2021. 11th house. It's about interest groups, tribes, communities. Scrutinize with suspicion. Examine with curiosity. Explore with an open mind where you feel like you belong and how you've been trained by that. Again, if I grew up in LA, I have a way of thinking that's different than somebody who grows up in New Orleans or New York or Canada or Mexico or wherever. Right? California is not New York, and California is not Berlin, and California is not Copenhagen. Where did you grow up? What was that community around you? What are the groups you belong to? And do you feel connected? Explore those. Open your curiosity. Because this is the year where that is where this change starts to take place. And I'll reiterate what the change is, but let's go through the last house. The 12th house is the house of deep spiritual experience. It's the house of spiritual values, higher ideals. It's also ghosts and ghosts from the past. What's interesting about the 12th house is we often don't know what is in there except by reflection because we can't see it. It's the hidden part of ourselves. Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius in your 12th house, that could be fascinating. What shifts in you about your deep beliefs, about your values? How do you change how you see your past? Do you feel like you've spent too much time on the mountain meditating or not enough time on the mountain meditating? There's a deep shamanic shift for you in 2021. Let's play this again. Saturn is the planet that builds structure. It contains. It gives us a lovely form of foundation, a sense of foundation. It gives us form. The form we create, but form. It is, again, a lovely form of ambition. It is all those things that help us connect to others in a way that conserves unity. And it is about conserving, as in conservation. And Jupiter is the planet of good luck. We think of it that way, but it's easy. It expands things. So imagine wherever you have those planets, what it's saying to you is, yes, scrutinize this. Look at this, because who you were may not be who you want to be or who you truly are. What is it you want to do? You want to build a world from that house, from whatever house this is in. You want your next year to shift in that area and expand and grow, because climbing a new mountain is going to be easier in 2021 because Jupiter is going to help. Changing careers, embracing new thoughts, owning your own voice, changing your perspective, changing your presentation, how you look, how you feel, your relationship with money, your relationship with your job, with friends, with your sexual relationships, with your deep, intimate relationships. 2021 is the year of change there, where you embrace that piece of yourself that has felt constrained and restricted and wants some freedom. Now, I have to say, not everybody's going to behave, right? Because not all Aquarians behave anyway. But the world is still full of people. People are going to do what people do. This is a year of opportunity. And you get to choose. Capricorn has had us focused on everything that's been going wrong, everything that's a struggle, and committing to one right answer. Aquarius says there is no one right answer, actually. There's so many answers to explore. And some of them are better for you and some are better for me. And there's room for that in this world. There's room for many. Again, the humanitarian, right? There's room for many. There's not one right way. Isn't it interesting? We have 2 vaccines right now approved, and probably we'll have a 3rd at some point. And there's other vaccines in other parts of the world that are already being given. In the US, we have 2. There's going to be more. And there's going to be more treatment protocols. There's going to be more. What was the last little bit of Capricorn before all this moved? Yeah, you got it. The virus mutated. Okay, more. Not necessarily bad. Not necessarily something that's going to wipe this out, wipe out the planet. It's not going to happen. But it was more than one. And that's where we are now. More than one way. So, you know, if this interests you, if you're wondering what is 2021 about for you, I have to say, a reading with an astrologer would be a good idea. There are tons and tons of programs you can print out, but as I've said before, they give you the threads. They don't weave those threads together into a tapestry. And yeah, there's 10 planets, and there's your rising, and then there's your north and south node, and there's an asteroid or 2 floating around, and there's 12 houses and 12 signs. It's a lot more complex and interesting than just your sun sign. Okay, so I'm not seeing any of you asking questions. I would love it if you did. How do you do that? Oh, where are you? By the way, let me take a pause. This is Dr. Elisa on the Crystal Ball Hour on KUHS Denver, the stream, this amazing radio show. And my sponsors are veteranspride.org, and the nonprofit close to my heart is the MS Society. I'm a trustee, actually. I'm on the board of the Colorado-Wyoming chapter. And today, what we've been talking about is this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. Now, if you look up in the sky tonight, you're going to see them together. And as I said, it'll be some of the brightest in the sky. We don't have a full moon, we do have a quarter moon, so it might be dimmed a little. If you saw it a few days ago with the new moon, they weren't exact, but it was pretty bright. But they're going to be so close together, they're going to look like one planet. And when that happens, in astronomy it happens, but in astrology, when that happens, it marks your chart. It's like you've got a new planet for a year, and this one maybe for 10 years, in your chart, that activates a part of your chart. Now, if you, as I said, if you have a moon in Aquarius, and it's sitting like at 1 degree, or it's sitting close to that, 0 to 1, maybe within 10 degrees of that, expect to feel some emotional changes. In fact, expect to feel some emotions. Classic dark side of Aquarius, we live in our heads. One of my girlfriends today on the phone asked me how I felt about something, and I said, I wish I knew. I know how I think about it. I'm trying to get into my emotional self. Aquarius, this is a big shot of energy in there. It doesn't make you more emotional, but it does clarify. And it hits that moon, if you've got an Aquarius moon, and it transforms you emotionally. So, wherever you have Aquarius. Now, there are signs that are opposite and right angles. So if you're Leo, all of this is happening directly opposite you. All you Leos are on the other side of the room, looking directly across at that, and seeing that light shine back at you. Oppositions. They're good things. They challenge us like a good, healthy debate to come to a higher understanding. Leos, expect that in 2021. A higher understanding of how you want to build your world and how you want to grow it. What's at right angles to it? Well, this gets fun. Scorpio and Taurus. Taurus, I have to say, this could be a challenge, and you know that. Taurus is the lovely sign of contentment, of sensuality, of being solid. And of all the signs that hates change, I would put Taurus probably at the top. Capricorn and Taurus, you're right. I think it is those two signs for which the physics of a body in motion stays in motion, and a body at rest never gets off the couch again. But that law of physics, if you didn't know that law of physics, that's why it was discovered and written. Because it is that ability to be content and stay in one place. And yet at a right angle to you are these powerful, powerful planets saying it's time to rethink it, it's time to examine it, it's time to change it. I think you may have a little rock and roll going this year for you. Taurus, just saying. And my wonderful, wonderful Scorpio friends, you too are at a right angle to this. So it's a different kind of challenge. Aquarius, again, doesn't like emotions. Scorpio is the deepest feeling, emotional sign in the zodiac. We've talked about that on this show. Scorpio feels something so deeply that they feel it physically. They physically experience their emotions. I'm an Aquarius, right? I mean, this is doesn't make sense to me, except I have a Scorpio rising. I actually have a chart that's run a lot by Scorpio, so I understand the struggle. And the struggle then is to make decisions not just from that emotional place, but also to pull up. The same way that for Aquarians, the struggle is not just to stay in that mental place, but to come down into the emotions. So, Scorpio, you might be rethinking things. And remember, I said 8th house. If you have 8th house Aquarius, this is going to be true for Scorpios too, because 8th house rules Scorpio, or Scorpio rules the 8th house, the other way around. You might find, you just might find, that everything to do with sexuality or your sexual relationships, your intimate relationships, your intimate conversations is up for a change. Okay. You know, I've got about 5 more minutes on this show, and not one of you has asked me a question, told me you like the show, and as a double Aquarius with a Scorpio rising, with all of this stuff in my 3rd house, I'm wondering what I should be saying, right? Do you get it? It's in my 3rd house, and here I am on the radio. What is my voice? What should I say? What do I feel like saying? What? And so how to play that back to me? Scrutinize with suspicion. Examine with curiosity. Explore with an adventurous spirit what comes out of my mouth, what I write. And you can help me with that, every single one of you. You can go to elisadrobin.com and you can sign up for my website and get my blog posts. They come out about twice a month. And I'm actually going to, in the last few minutes, read you part of one today. You can check out my show. You can let me know, give me some feedback on this show and on the Dr. Elisa show, which next week I will be on the 31st, Thursday, at 11 o'clock, Dr. Elisa show, with this amazing acupuncturist, Nancy Harnum, who is a 5-element acupuncturist. And we are going to celebrate the new year and the new launching of that with suspiciously examining with curiosity, exploring with an adventurous spirit the world of 5-element acupuncture. And here's what I want to leave you with today, and this is my most recent blog. Brilliant stars call to the fire in my soul during the long dark nights before the solstice. This year, every candle, every holiday light, every star, every planet, every asteroid are more precious and more significant. The solstice, marking the shift from darkness to light, will be momentous in this year of shadowy fear and anger and pain. I imagine the light of the stars eloquently dancing with the light of the Hanukkah candles that I lit for 8 nights, spiraling and swirling around as they illuminate my heart. I lit the Hanukkah candles to honor a miracle embedded in my DNA, a memory that I did not live, but that haunts me. And from a place of inner darkness, my heart has been cracking open, releasing the radiance of my turquoise soul flame to join the spiritual light of the season. And then I realize the truth about this life. When I courageously embrace my soul's craving by fully living my truth, fully living and loving every moment of my life, by walking with grace and gratitude, I become the candles that illuminate the darkness in the world. That's it. That's the secret we're all yearning to find. What we're all searching for, our meaning and purpose, our passion, our life mission. The secret to manifesting the life we crave. This year, and it's been an amazing year. I've been on this station now for 1 year. This year I wish for you the wisdom to acknowledge your light, whatever it is. The courage to open your heart, and I'm working on that. And the joy of letting your soul's journey shine on the faces of those around you. Because that's all you have to do in this world. When you live like that, regardless of your job description or your title or where you live, you are living your life's purpose. You are changing the world. You are illuminating the darkness while also embracing your own darkness. And that's what I wish for you. Whatever you celebrate in this season of shifting from darkness to light. Thank you for joining me today on the Crystal Ball Hour. Please stay ignited like a candle. Stay inspired while that light shines on you. And stay safe and well. And I will see you on Thursday.